Our presenters today are Dr. Vivian Vieta, Program Director at Project TOPS, and TOPS stands for Transition to Post-Secondary Institutions at the Robert Morgan Educational Center and Technical College. Additionally, we have Ada Begard, who is the project coordinator with Project TOPS. And at this time, we will begin our webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Iris, thank you for uploading on the chat some of the handouts. We really want this to be a very informal communication, so there are very few slides. And let me know if you can see that clearly now. That's our main campus entrance. So welcome to Robert Morgan. And both Ada and myself are very honored and proud to be sharing what works for us at Robert Morgan. Like Drew shared, our learning outcomes is going to be to make sure that you all understand how we address completing the student annual report. But we are reminding you that at the end or before the end, we're going to ask everyone to share what works for them on your campus. We learn from each other. I don't think anyone has the perfect way of doing anything. Sharing our information, whether it's technical college, community, or universities, is what makes it all work. And we continue learning and moving forward. So when we begin at Project TOPS, we really do not advertise, and this is something that I've spoken about with Janice and Drew. Ada and I don't advertise the scholarships or unique abilities because we have such a huge volume of interest within our community. The needs are very great, as I'm sure you all find. So the students kind of find us. We start sharing with the students and their families what unique abilities is and what the organization offers once we've gone through all their records, once they visited us on campus, once we know they're a good fit for what we offer and what the requirements that we need for eligibility in the programs. At that point, we did develop a top student agreement that we asked the students to sign, and either Ada or myself sit with the students and go through it. And the parents sign as well, as either if they have guardianship over the students, they need to sign, or they sign as a witness so that they're very well aware. So at that point is where we tell them there's going to be information that we ask and you need to maintain in contact with us. We tell them from the get-go. We're going to be asking information about employment. We're going to be asking information about housing and living arrangements. So we're going to be in touch with you all for quite a while. And that's the way we like it. But we inform them at that very point. Our student agreement is very personalized to Robert Morgan. It really covers the programs that they're in, the schedule for our hours, our trimester. So we're here August, December. That's the first trimester, then January, April, then April, August. Very little time for any break. Student academic progress, or SAP, is how we measure students' progress, just like is done through the Pell system and even vocational rehab, basing on hours, attendance, and demonstration of mastery of the objectives. We follow the Florida curriculum frameworks for the CTE programs that we support. And for any new programs that are listening to us today, we support baking and pastry arts. If a student is successful in that program, then as a team, we meet and discuss whether they are able to go and begin professional culinary arts and hospitality. We also support commercial art technology and 3D animation. So that is the beginning. Our communication is ongoing from that initial visit to everything else that we do. We communicate always with the student, even if the student is a student that has guardianship legally done through the parents or any type of legal document. We address everything with the student and the parent together, building that information that they need to be responsible, take ownership of their information, have everything written down, anything that's important, because we know the questions that are coming in that annual report. So we're trying to front load our students from the very first trimester as we go ahead. Obviously the family, but through the students and the family, we reach out. And if there are any other outside services that are going on, we want to know about them. We want permission to be able to communicate with them. And this is a list of everything that we've encountered. Obviously, the voc rehab consultant or counselors, whichever you prefer, is the first line. But some of our students have private counselors, behavior therapists. Several of our students participate still as young adults with speech and language therapists, doctors, any type of medical information, private tutors, all of these support providers that make up the team for our student. We want to have their information, their contact information. It also serves as a backup. We've never had this happen yet, so I'm going to say it anyway. If we lose contact with any one of our students for whatever reason, we have a whole team of people that we can reach out that have been providing services to our students. And we're fortunate it hasn't happened, but just in case. One of the things that Iris put on the chat is the timeline, and we're going to share that with you in a minute. The student annual reports are due August 1st. So something that we build the communication. So we're talking to our students, plan ahead and set a date for yourself. For us this summer, it's going to be July 19th. I don't want to wait till August 1st. That's actually our last day of classes. So we're going to be anxious to get there. And we have graduation right before that. So always be mindful of that date of when everything is due and start collecting the information as quickly as you can is the best proactive advice I can share with everyone. Ada, do you want to handle types of communication? Can everyone hear her?
Can you guys hear me? No. Yes?
Yes, Janice is not.
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize. We have to be very fluid. That's our thing, because I have no speakers on this computer, so I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. So the communication for us is key. Communication with our students, communication with our instructors, our CT instructors, with administration, you know, with any type of caregivers, you know, especially parents if they have guardianship. VR counselors, like Dr. Vieta was saying, is key for anything that might arise. Even if they're running late on STS, they WhatsApp us and they tell us, Ms. B, I'm running late on STS, which is good because that's teaching them also the professionalism. You need to let your bosses know if there's something going on, if you're running late, etc. We communicate obviously in person. We always have open communication with our students, like Dr. Vieta and I were talking earlier. Sometimes they tell us things that even the family doesn't know. You know, like for example, hey, I'm thinking of going, you know, on, you know, this weekend out with some friends. I don't know if I need to ask my parents, you know, we're gonna go watch movies. So it's good to have that they feel comfortable enough to come to us. Phone, that's very good. We also keep logs of our phone calls. Always make sure that you have logs of everything. So if you need to go back, hey, I spoke to you. No, you never called me. We never discussed this. Well, let me look back. On this date at this time, I called you, I left you a message, I called you again. So phone communication is also very important for us. We always try to keep up with the phone numbers because sometimes they change. Even email addresses or physical addresses. So we've been pretty good with reaching out, especially after they have graduated, to keep up with what they're doing, because that's also part of our jobs, is following up with what they're doing as far as jobs. So we keep very good tabs of that. Text or email, very important. For example, chef has, for example, in the kitchen, they have a chain communication, a chain of communications through all of them so that they will communicate. We just had a job fair at the
youth fair. Youth fair.
And then the students, some of them got lost or what time do we need to be there. So we're always open for communication. So there's no excuses of I don't know how to talk to you. I don't have a phone, etc. Photos speak 100 words, 100, words and 1,000 words, and just seeing a picture, a photograph Dr. Vieta does that a lot. They do that a lot in the kitchen. So do I, to be able to memorialize what they're working on, what they're doing, and those are great types of communication. We have students that participated in Skills USA this past week. Some of them won medals, so it was a great time to take a picture, send it to parents, and show it to them. And it was just, you know, they loved it. WhatsApp, a great tool that we have too, and Remind as well. So these are all types of communications that help us keep the door open.
And it all leads back to when we're gonna call or text or whatever type of communication to ask you for information for the annual report. It's not a surprise because, like Ada said, we've already built in all these different forms of communication. The students and the parents are very much aware, so it's not a surprise to anyone. We both, Ada and I, discussed, you know, how do we share the information of what we do? We're gonna have a template to share with you that I think is already in the chat. I think the only thing that I don't want to say we do different, because I have a feeling each of your sites already does this in your own way. We really go that extra step to develop and maintain a personal connection with our students. We have a birthday list in all the classes. We have our student that we call our own personal activities director because he likes to decorate for each and every single holiday. St. Patty's is the next one on the event, and the classes are decorated. And this is a student and a parent who choose to go to the dollar store and bring their decorations and decorate the class. That builds that feeling of community. We did sponsored an event for a spa evening. It was quite popular with all the moms, and we had moms and sisters come in, and we don't support the facials or nails programs right now, but it's one of the programs that we've been collaborating with the instructor. So it was a great way for Ada and myself to go in an evening and see the program, see everything of how it runs, meet some of the current students, and also to expose some of the parents and get their take on it. But it was really just an opportunity to connect with the parents, for them to speak to us informally. We reminded them all annual reports when it takes place. So again, any opportunity that you can have, anything that's personalized to your campus or your institution is really beneficial. We're in the midst of planning a Skills USA celebration luncheon, because like Ada said, our students participated in 2 events, and that was a big deal that we're going to celebrate. And to any of these things that we have, alumni is always welcome to come and join us. So before we ask you all, so I'm giving you a couple of minutes more time to figure out if you want to share what works in your campus. I'm going to stop my share and show you the template and just go through it. I'm going to stop sharing. And really something that I want to highlight for everyone is one of the things that you probably have already seen. As soon as I find my document, done. This is directly from the Unique Abilities website, and I'm going to scroll up. Sorry, I don't want to make anybody dizzy. This is the timeline for reports and distributions. This is on the website, and it has really all the important dates that we need to be mindful for. This is where I mentioned that I'm going to scroll now. This is where I mentioned where you have August 1st as the deadline for the student information for the annual report. It covers all the main points that have to be done. And it really was, it wasn't our first couple of years. It was maybe year 3 where we started seeing the information compiling from students that were continuing and had more information to share, that we developed a template, and that's what we're sharing. And I think, Iris, you already have that. I think you have that on. I'm going to go back and forth and make sure that I share.
Yes.
If not, this is it. And we ask that it's shared with all of you in a Word format. Please feel free to make any changes to this. I'm going to increase. This is directly what we use, that we keep track of, but it's everything that's asked in the annual report. So I literally have a notebook that Ada and I share, or our notes with all this information, so that we're not completing the report on Salesforce and going back and forth between files. We're just keeping it all together. So information like whether the student is a resident or not, whether the student is receiving SSI or SS, any type of benefits, guardianship. We always code guardianships. For us, it's green. If a student has a green highlight on a file, that is that there's been legal documentation submitted to us, and we have that with our registrar as well as our financial aid office, so that they understand that these students shouldn't be asked to sign any documents without contacting a parent, or at least contacting Ada and myself. The information about their school and the diploma that they received. Sometimes, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but many times we have one information on the computer screen that Miami-Dade County uses, but the information is different on the student's IEP, or maybe another document that VR wrote up their evaluation. So we go through and make sure that we have the accurate information. We don't want to have to go back and make any changes to the annual report, although we know that we can. We list when they began, our FPCTP, and what that estimated graduation is. Our own personal experience, I'd rather always estimate giving them a little bit more time, and if they finish sooner, that's fine. And that's a conversation that we've all had with Janice and Drew and even Claudia in terms of requesting the scholarships. We want to plan ahead and make sure that the students have whatever they need, but we're never rushing the students to go through, as long as they're making satisfactory academic progress, as long as we're seeing that they're motivated and they're on point. The time frame is not something that we're concerned with. Our students do have options for different types of industry certifications. So we list the primary one for the CTE program, as well as other certifications. And those are questions that are asked on the annual report. We do have opportunities for events and internships internships are unpaid, almost like freelance opportunities for the students in graphic design. And events really come in more for the students in baking and culinary, where our chefs get phone calls and are asked to participate in community events, fundraisers, different types of things that happen in our local community, that our chefs will donate food as well as the services. And the services are provided by our students. So it gives great opportunity for our students to be able to participate. If I know that I'm reporting on a student that is not employed right now, this is a type of unpaid internship that they have participated to build those professional skills like Ada was talking about. So we go through the rest of this graduation year, obviously, and who we made the referral to. So it was always VR, because all our students must be clients of vocational rehab. That is a non-negotiable for us. But sometimes within VR, we have other agencies or other services that we make those referrals to, and we document it so that we keep track. And that's something that we report back when we do the annual report. Key terms that at this point, I wanted to make sure not to assume anyone was clear with. I wanted to just go and quickly go over them, because sometimes you may have a question and don't feel comfortable asking it, or everyone has different language in their own county. So supported employment services are additional services. Think of a job coach or a mentor that a student is going to have at a work site. Competitive integrated employment, or CIE, is integrated, to me, is another word for inclusive. So it's inclusive within the community. It's not receiving any type of supported employment services. And that's a direct quote from a document with a glossary of terms that the center provides, that is on their website. And I'll show you that in a moment. Competitive employment is just that. It's integrated employment. It's the same language, saying that the students are not receiving a job coach, for example, or a mentor, or any other type of additional services. Sheltered workshop is receiving any type of employment in a location that is primarily consisting of students with young adults with unique abilities. An unpaid internship or work experience, the students might be in a work environment, but they are not receiving any type of financial compensation for the work that they're doing. And now at the bottom, really one of the main components of that annual report, besides the certificates that the students have earned and their hours, which is a part of our in-house Miami-Dade County system, is where they're working or what opportunities they've had. So we break it down into 3 for here. You can always add more. We have found that on many occasions, our students have 2 to 3 jobs. They may have one primary job that they've had for a while. For example, we have several students who came to us working for Publix as baggers. And now after finishing one of the baking or culinary programs, now they could be working part-time at a restaurant. They could be working at a food truck on the weekends. They don't give up the primary job, even though it's a part-time, because they hope to be employed full-time. So all of these things, we keep it all together and we let our students know and we share with them. We need start date, we need your wages, we need whether it's work hourly or annual, what you're giving us. We need a job title and why is that important? And we have a place for notes. Many of our students will just take a picture and send it out to us, whether it's their schedule or their check, their W-2 forms. We get pictures of all sorts of things. But we accept that and we welcome it because the students understand that when we complete this annual report, this is really important information for our funders. And we kindly refer to Unique Abilities as the center or Unique Abilities or the scholarship people. These are the peoples that are funding you. So we need to give them an update on what you're doing. And they want to see progress in what you're doing. They want to see your grades, your attendance, and know what you're doing with this information that you're gaining here. So this is a very quick and simple 1-page template that you all have access to, and feel free to make any changes to it. Honestly, the reminder of key terms, once you do this once or twice, you don't need it. But I remember at the very beginning, that was something that Ada and I discussed about and wanted to be sure. We had many students that came to us with jobs that were out of field. It wasn't in the career cluster that you have all the choices on the annual report. We didn't include that here. We did include the CTE program because we know that everyone can make that decision. But if that student began working out of field and now based on what they're studying, it's leading to an additional job in field, that's something that obviously we want to report, number one, and we want to celebrate and encourage the student to continue that. So that was an important component. At this point, I want to take a breath and know if anyone has any questions or there's anything in the chat about this form. We encourage you to make any changes to it or share anything that you may have, but this is what's been beneficial to us. Any questions, any comments?
Does anybody do anything differently that you can share, any different forms?
Feel free to unmute yourself or to write in the chat window.
One of the things that, let me go. I'm going to go directly to the website as long as I can get the website going.
Ada and Vivian, when you are using that student annual report template, do you use that for the student information reports as well as for the student follow-up for your completers?
Yes. We use it for both.
Mm-hmm.
And we build on it. This is the website that I recommend everyone, if you're not familiar, go back and check on it often because there's new resources and information that is beneficial. So just this morning before planning for today, looking at evaluation and reporting, if you're a new program, maybe before doing Salesforce, you have the program template for the program report as well as your student report. The information is very similar. Minor changes have taken place. It kind of is a guide step by step of what you need to be doing. And for us, especially at the beginning, I know that there are veteran programs on this webinar today as ourselves. But anyone that's beginning, you kind of feel you're doing so many things at the same time, and organization is really important, and not letting those deadlines sneak up. So as much as you know what they're asking, and for us, it's important for the students to know what's being asked as well. That's the key. I'm going to click here for 1 second. Hopefully you don't need a new share. This is what was already posted on the chat, which are your timeline for reports. And here on page 2, you have what I mentioned to everyone, which is when the student information and the annual reports are due. Does anyone have any questions on that? I know, they're very quiet. Yes, too quiet.
Well, Doris reported that they use text and Zoom and email and call as needed, you know, based on what works for particular students. As they get jobs, they use an Excel file to kind of monitor how and where the students are, right, Doris? Did you want to elaborate a little bit? I don't know if she's trying to unmute yet or not, but
I know Doris still had students that she was,
that's right, she was working with, but
Right.
yeah.
which
But
is
they-
something that I
they
think
keep
at
it-
this time
Hi,
is still balancing.
I think you got it, pretty much that's what I was trying to share. As the years have gone by, it's just trying to see what fits the student and trying to keep that communication going, building that community, as was said, and just so that every time we are in touch with them, it's really a nice occasion to catch up and get the information we need as well. Okay.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
Just to
Thank
add
you.
to that, you were talking to Dr. Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry.
Just barely.
It'll, yeah.
Can you just tell them about how, let me go over there. Sorry.
Here, you sit.
No, that's okay. I'm just moving because fluidity. I guess we have no speaker on my computer. Some students have become so used to communicating with us, and they like that, every that's okay. Every year that they actually text us or text Dr. Rieta, hi, how are you? I'm still working in the same position, or now I'm working this job and another job. She just shared with me a text that we got from a student that graduated from baking, and that's just amazing, so they like that communication.
They like sharing their successes. That's what it summarizes.
That's wonderful.
They
Yeah.
want to stay in touch. So we can never say that we've struggled with getting information from our students. And as we kept thinking about what we wanted to share with you all, and what do we do that makes anything different, I don't really think it's anything different from what any of you are doing currently or will do. It's just we're consistent in the communication. We encourage it. I don't even think we've ever had anything inappropriate in terms of a text coming in too late or something. It's just, there's a feeling of community, and that makes it very easy to get the information. And there's also a feeling of trust where the parents understand, and we tell the parents we're reaching out to find out this information. It's rare that we don't get an immediate answer. If we don't get an immediate answer, we call the parents and we tell them, listen, we need this information from your young adult. Oh, let me tell you, no, thank you. We want the young adult to answer. They cannot be too busy or too hurried to respond to Ms. Bogarts or Ms. Vieta. They need to come in and check in. And at that point, I think I only remember one student, and the next day he was on our doorstep like, I'm so sorry, I didn't answer, my phone had died. It's like, it's okay, you didn't have to come, but thank you, you're here. Let's catch up. So it's good that they know that the information is important, and that we have to continue building it in order to help other students. And our students are very aware about that, and building it, paying it forward and talking to new students. We've done tours where we've had alumni come in so that a possible candidate can hear directly from a student who's in the program or who has finished the program, what their experience was. It's a huge commitment in any CTE program that you're offering. It's a huge commitment of time and energy. And we always explain it as you know, the center, the scholarship people, they're putting their faith in you that you can do this. So maintaining the communication and completing this is a requirement that we have to do as part of our responsibilities. You have to make that happen as well, because you're the one giving us the information. It's all about you. We're here for you. So you're combining with us to just show what you've been able to accomplish. And that's how we've always presented, and we keep going from that.
You know, Vivian, one of the things that we always value and look forward to is your comments. Your comments about each student. And that's something that we value. And why, one of the reasons why we wanted you all to present today, because you do spend a lot of time to personalize and clarify about each student's progress, where they are, of what they're doing, to tell a story. You sort of do that. You sort of tell a story. And I think that probably comes from that ongoing connection that you have with students and their family, so that you can be able to chronicle their success or setbacks. You know, you chronicle what happened to them, which makes it easy when you start doing the completers and you follow up with them. You know where they are, what their circumstances are each year, and you always provide a comment. And I would ask our colleagues to do the same, you know, as you think about your students yearly, and think about those with whom you follow up with, that you share a little more insight for us, because there are times when you may have difficult time communicating with them, that you share with us what you do know that's going on.
Well, every student has a unique circumstance, you know, no pun intended. And sometimes the progress isn't a direct path, and, you know, there are turns and curves along the way. So anything that I would write when I entered, and I'm the one that usually enters it into Salesforce, but when Ada and I brainstorm and look at the information and look at what we're putting in, we both always come up with those comments. And thank you, Janice, for your comments. They mean the world to us, because the more we give you, we feel that then you know, you can reach out and call us, but you're looking at all of it, and you have so many of our programs to look at. The more we can give you when you're looking at it all together, to fill in any holes that you might say, well, wait a second, this student is not following the line of sequence. What happened? We have young adults that have chronic illnesses. We have young adults who've had accidents. We've had young adults who have encountered, you know, emotional challenges, especially through COVID, who may have taken longer, who may have taken a break. We had a student who took a 1-year break before COVID even happened, because he was having serious medical concerns. So any of that information we document. Students that are choosing not to take an industry certification because of anxiety, and they want more time to prepare for it. Students that finish one program and realize maybe this wasn't the right program for me, but I want to come back and now do this. And there's like a legitimate connection, and we feel that we should support it or can support it. We share that as part of the annual report. So all of that is included.
I think those are critical in thinking about each one of the students. And I know that when thinking about those types of communication, some of our programs have reported using social media. Would any of you feel free to kind of convey how, particularly if it's difficult or not, how you use social media to find out where students are? Oh my gosh, I can't believe how
It's a
bashful.
very quiet group today. I don't know if it's Tuesday, if it's March. We don't use social media. No, Ada and I were like, no to social media.
Mhm.
Janice, this is Joanne.
Yes,
We do use social media,
okay.
and it's the students see a lot of it, but sometimes it'll be an adult watching it who says, I know so-and-so. And then it'll kind of trickle down to us. It's a hard way to trace somebody or try and find somebody. But if you put it out there, do you know where these students are, or have you seen this person lately? That kind of thing. sometimes you get a decent response.
Mhm.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, there's definitely advantages to using it, especially if you have students that may have relocated, moved with their parents, changed numbers. I think we've all experienced that to some point. There's nothing negative with it. It's just something that we haven't done because we really have been fortunate to stay in touch with our students and to, I guess the best way that I can describe it, if it hasn't come across yet, it's just an ongoing part of their responsibility. Just as their attendance, just as submitting information on posting information to Canvas, they don't have an option. And as of this point, it hasn't been a struggle for us, but I think we make it a priority from the beginning and we tell them what we're gonna expect, like what's on that template, we're gonna ask you these questions. And I will do sometimes like a generic email. It's that time again for information. If I haven't heard from you, I'm asking you my regular scholarship questions and Ada will make phone calls. I will send texts or WhatsApp. We follow up with emails. At that time, if we haven't been in touch with the parents in a while, we tell the parents reaching out to your young adult, share what's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want to know about it. And the parents as well want to share the successes or sometimes the frustrations in terms of, well, they're still at the same job. Well, that's a good thing. Yes, but maybe it's time to change. Well, okay, well, what are you doing about changing? Where have you been applying? Have you reached back out to VR? We try to maintain that open communication even after the student graduates. Any questions or comments? Is everyone familiar with going into Salesforce? I'm looking at the time and I know that we have Claudia on board. I cannot possibly do as an amazing job as Claudia to showing you Salesforce, but does anyone feel that they need to see where you do the annual report, where you have the difference between the annual report and the follow-up that you do to the students, and you're doing that follow-up for 5 years? That's why keeping all this information, to me, it's really nice just to see how it builds, how you see the changes and the growth in the students. Does anyone need to see that or would like to see that? Are there any questions regarding actually entering it in Salesforce? One of the questions that I think Iris and I brainstormed was, how do we enter it? Take that template, copy paste. We build that information from that. So when it's time for me to go in and put it, because the license is under my name, I just copy and paste and all the information, all the notes, all the comments are there. So there's no surprise. And in our building, I don't know if you all saw me at the very beginning with the authentication, we literally have to log into Salesforce, wave and pray to the technology gods to be able to authenticate, run out the door, wave the phone outside, run back in. Authentication has been a whole nother layer for us. So when we get in, we don't want to lose that connection and we want to put everything in, save, submit, and just be glad that hopefully we've met the deadline. We don't always meet the deadline. I'll fully disclose that. Don't always meet the deadline, but we try.
I wanted to share a comment. I'm not sure if I'm speaking over anybody because I heard voices in the background, but I do want to say thank you for sharing that information, because honestly, building community and trust is something that I now can focus on, because thinking about this opportunity to reach out on the 5-year follow-up, with you laying that out really provides a vision to, it's not just a generic, hey, how you doing? I need to collect this data. Now, because of this information you provides new vision. And how do I build community and trust? Not simply the follow-up piece. And that touch really resonates with me. So I find this as a very valuable session, because I'm starting that task of, how do I deliver? How do I repeat? How do I respond? How do I touch base? And this helps now with, hey, are you building community and trust? Like, focus on that first. Focus on the individual. So very helpful. And I want to make sure I say that comment, because now it guides us as a team. And I'm excited to report back. I am definitely excited to report back.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. We both really appreciate that. It wasn't always like this. The first 2 years, I remember texting or calling a student and getting one piece of information. Great, I got the job title, I got the right address, I got everything for and then I would go back and it was the Excel sheets. We weren't on Salesforce yet. And it was like, oh, I need the hourly wages. And then I would text and they'd send me something and I'm like, wait, what is this number? Is this annual? Is this what? I don't understand. So it would be like, okay, we need to have a conversation. I can't talk right now. Okay, I need you to make time to talk. So we got to where we are now by trial and error. Basically, that's the truth. We learned what we needed to ask. We needed to prepare the students, not just run to do a report. And let's be very genuine. It is a lot of work. We have multiple reports. We have multiple responsibilities. I'm sure that everyone on this webinar has multiple responsibilities. So yes, it comes down to organization and communication, but you have to be prepared for what you're doing so that it can be accomplished. Any questions or comments, any suggestions? Anyone wants to share what's worked or what hasn't worked? I'm going to put the PowerPoint on one more time. It is the briefest of PowerPoints because we really just wanted to be able to hear from you. So we said that the last slide for us, if I can get it, is our contact information, but we still definitely have time on the webinar. Ada is our project coordinator and she does an amazing job. My email is there. Email is the best way to reach us because during the day, we are supporting our students. Meetings or webinars or any type of information session that we do with parents or interested students to come on board has to take place after our students go. And like Doris had mentioned before, she was doing transportation at the end of the day. Most of our students come to us with special transportation services in Miami-Dade County, provided through the county, through Miami-Dade County, and it's called STS. And we stand there and make sure that everyone goes where they need to go. Ada has done an amazing job making sure that the students know how to advocate for themselves and call and find out. All of that goes back to building information, knowing what they need to know, and taking responsibility for themselves. So I guess the underlying theme is we connect everything from day one through even after they leave. We stay as involved as we can. And we appreciate your time today, listening to what's worked for us and how we've learned through the process. I'm going to stop sharing and welcome anyone's comments or questions.
I want to share with you that Doris had one question that I'm not sure if it's about using Salesforce or about the social media. I have some experience but do not feel proficient. Were you referring to entering the data into Salesforce?
The data,
For Doris.
for Doris,
From Doris, yeah.
from Doris. Doris, you're doing an amazing job with everything that you're doing. We've had this conversation before. So you're getting everything done. I recommend, I like cutting and pasting, so I know that I have it. Working from Post-its and random text messages here, piecing it together doesn't work for me. Not at this point. The ability that Salesforce and Claudia has given us to be able to clone a report from a previous year is a fabulous strategy. Just make sure that you dedicate the time to go through and make sure of what you're cloning. Technology is wonderful, absolutely pro technology, but there can always be a glitch. So don't take it for granted. Check the information. Be careful how you're labeling your year with the correct years of what you're entering. And yes, use the comment section, because if you have anything that could be a question, we just try to front load and tell Janice and Drew, who are reading all of ours, what the situation is. And that's where our narratives come in. Sometimes it's a small one. Sometimes it might be the same comment that we used the prior year. And again, I copy and paste, but I expand or I make whatever changes are necessary.
And I've also entered into the chat some videos that Claudia has sent over. They're from our YouTube channel about the FCSUA community.
And we have watched those videos using all the program, the student reports, the follow-up. Those videos, Claudia, are outstanding. Be prepared to pause, and if you can have 2 screens or work with a partner in crime, Ada and I are very fortunate to back each other up. That is our whole team. We're missing one person. She's a part-time hourly teacher that's a dynamo. So we say that we're a team of 2.5. And it's a strong team, small, but mighty. But we're here for our students, and we're here to share anything that we've learned along the way.
I do want to share that I'm hopeful that a goal for you this year is to avoid don't know when you're doing your reports, your annual report and your follow-up, that you do know. What you do know is what's really helpful for us. If you weren't able to reach the student, give us something else or go the extra mile to find out what you do know, because the commitment is for 5 years when you're following up, and each year know when they have completed what your goals are, so what their goals are. So please look at what your annual reports were last year and see if you can avoid saying, I don't know, I wasn't able to reach anyone. Because if you start now, you will know something. Additionally, as Vivian mentioned earlier, you will need to complete your program information first. And so we encouraged you, like after the mid-year, go ahead and get started on your program information. And we've had a couple of programs to do that who knew what their information was already and have completed that, because you will not be able to do your student information, would not be able to get it approved anyway, until you have completed the program information. The program information and the completers, the student follow-up information, is ready for you to do right now. And so you can get started on that. And those of you who have large teams or large number of students to follow, you can begin that process right now. If you need assistance from us, our team is ready to help you walk through. If you have not benefited from support with Amanda at this short period of time, she is a whip. She's walked through it. She's done it. She knows what you need to do, and she's quick. And so if you need assistance, like Doris, if you would like more time, I know it's been Claudia a lot of times, Amanda is here to help bridge your level of proficiency, as well as you have any other colleague here online who can help you walk through that. So no more don't knows, and start your program information report as soon as you can, as well as your student follow-up reports, because sometimes you get lost and forget about the student follow-up reports. So I just wanted to make sure I included that information. Thanks.
And I just want to add and highlight what Vivian already shared. When I was a former program coordinator, we actually did a lot of the same strategies that you mentioned, getting that experience. But I really liked how you mentioned from the get-go, having that expectation reiterated to the students and the families. And it made me think that a lot of programs have MOUs or student handbooks or go over student expectations before admissions. So this is, I think, another piece to put in to those initial conversations about the expectation to communicate with you all, 5 years after graduation. And when I was at an FPCTP, we also created a Google form very similar to the one that you made with the Word document, where it had the exact same questions that's in the FCSUA community. That way we could go over it with the student and enter in and track that, and then copy and paste it into the FCSUA community. So that copy and paste feature can be really helpful. And you also pulled out the time frame for program coordinators. I think we also did something similar to the students where before they graduated, we had like a meeting and went over kind of that expectation again to reiterate that, every May, you're going to hear from us. It might not be me, it might not be so-and-so, but it's going to be someone from the institution who's going to reach out to you. We're going to ask these questions. So we would email them or call them ahead of time so they could prepare those answers and then schedule a meeting to actually go over the answers and submit that information into the Google form together. So I just wanted to kind of pull out some of the things that you mentioned already and just reiterate those are good practices. We use them as well where I was prior, and just want to commend you all on just such a special connection that you have with the students. And I think they do appreciate that follow-up too. They're reconnecting with you all as awesome staff members, as the families and the students, like reconnecting, and just thank you for what you do and your examples to us all here.
Thank you, Amanda. Both Ada and I appreciate those words and the reinforcement of some of these strategies being strategies that work. And in listening to you, I remembered something that we were both running around and doing this week is depending on your programs, your accreditation. You know, we're accredited through COE, and part of COE is maintaining that follow-up information for our local placement. We call it local placement data in Miami-Dade County. It asks very similar questions in terms of, are you employed? Did you go into another continuing education program? If you are employed, what's your job title? What are your duties? What is your basic salary? So it's really kind of cool because our students complete that same form that their peers complete. And then they know that anything additional that we're asking and we're typing it out for them is part of supporting the scholarship, supporting the grant. And they're very well aware of what that is and what the funding does, gives them that opportunity. For us, one of the really hard challenges at the beginning was when we were still very new is vocational rehab consultants and even supervisors wanting to put a time frame. Why is the student taking this long? Why? Well, there's a very obvious reason. They have a 504, they need these accommodations. So we kind of came up with a timeline for them. What the scholarships did for all of our students is to eliminate that pressure of my VR counselor is going to make me feel bad again by saying it's taken me too long. And that's a quote from one of our students. You know, I never have to worry about my VR counselor making me feel bad because I need to hurry up. I now can do it and just focus on what I need to do. And that was at the beginning, but I remember who the student was, and they would dread going because not intentionally, but their counselor was putting pressure on finishing, and the student was really doing an amazing job and needed the time. Yeah. So it's all a process that interconnects.
And, you know, just to add on a little bit to what Amanda said, Vivian did such a nice job when we chatted about this during our mid-year progress update. And it reminded me that whenever we talk to programs, we tell them we've been funded so that we can have grant dollars to provide to you as a program. And we've also been funded so that we have scholarship dollars to provide to students. And the students receive a wonderful scholarship. And oftentimes there are dollars for that student that are additional dollars with that scholarship, and receiving that scholarship comes with responsibility. And I think Vivian does a nice job of, you know, sharing that with the students. You're receiving, you know, this funding is covering not only your participation, but there are also some additional dollars. And with that comes the responsibility for us to be able to stay in touch and be able to receive information. So I think that works very well. I also see that the webinar evaluation has been placed in the chat window. You will also receive an email in a couple of days with a link to the recording to this webinar, as well as the evaluation for this webinar. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you complete this evaluation to share with us so that we provide webinars that are important, valuable, and useful to you as our FPCTP team and folks that are interested in learning more about becoming an FPCT. So thank you all. I'd like to thank both Vivian and Ada for such a wonderful webinar. Thank you both so much for sharing this. And I hope that everyone has enjoyed this, and remember to complete the evaluation, and we'll see you next month. And Iris, would you like to share information on next month's informational webinar?
Next month, we have Jamie Meyerson. She is going to be presenting on development at the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council and their projects. She was supposed to be a part of the December webinar. However, the intensity of the information provided by the Agency for Persons with Disabilities took a little bit longer than we expected. So Jamie is willing to present in April. And then in May, we will be talking more about the employment opportunities and collaboration strategies used by the ABLE Trust that were briefly discussed in one of the sessions during the mid-year, but it will be expanded this year.
Okay. Well, I wish you all a good day, and I'll stay on for just a minute for anyone who needs to click into the chat
you.
to get that evaluation. You're welcome. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.